These things are always true. Things are always working out for you, no matter how flawed your view of it is. And you can get to everything that you want. There is nothing that, if this time-space reality is inspired within you, that cannot come to full fruition. But we also want to put in that important acknowledgement. Did you get it? You can be or do or have anything that you desire. But sometimes you can't get there from there. Now, sounds like a contradiction, Abraham. You said, I can be or do or have anything, and then you said, I can't get there from where I am. And we want you to understand that what we mean is, you can't get there sometimes from the vibrational stance you're in. You got to get into a better mood. You've got to get into the receiving mode. You have to find a way of being receptive to what's in your vortex, because while your vortex, your inner being, source energy, and law of attraction are yielding to you constantly a path of least resistance, so that you can experience the deliciousness and the satisfaction of what you desire unfolding into the things of life, the experiences of life, the relationships of life, the monetary things of life, the piles of money of life. While all of that is potential for you, and while all of those pathways are being shined a light on by your inner being, if you're not in the receptive mode, you're going to claim that the path isn't there when it is. And we understand why you'd say that. Because if you're not in the vibrational frequency where you can receive it, you're not going to receive it. So, over time, we've wanted to help you to first accept that you are more than you see in these bodies, and next to understand that you are brilliant, beautiful creators, and that you came with the intention of creating for the purpose of satisfaction. We also want you to understand that this universe is vibrationally based, and so you have to accept yourself as a vibrational being, and you have to understand how it is that you offer vibration. You have to understand how vibrations turn to thoughts and how thoughts turn to things, which means you've got to understand what reception is. So when we say to you that you've done step one and you've filled your vortex full of enough things to keep you busy for 20 or 30 lifetimes, we're not kidding you even a little bit. In fact, we're so serious about this vibrational reality that we gave it a name. We call it this vortex, this spinning, summoning, collecting, and gathering up cooperative components for you. Wrote a whole book about it, a couple of books about it, so that you would accept its validity. And then we began saying to you, but you've got to get into the vortex. You've got to be a vibrational match to what's in there. And you've been patient with us over time. We hear you. Abraham, how can I get my money out of the vortex and into the bank? How can this vibrational reality that you all are so excited about, how can it become tangible for me? Because I'm a human being. I'm in physical form. I came into this leading edge. I want manifestations. I want manifestations. I want my creations to materialize so that I and others can enjoy them. And we say, that's what we've been talking to you about for a while. And it is certainly what we want to talk with you about today. We want you to understand how you must, if you want that, get into the receiving mode so that you can receive the thought, the impulse, so that your timing can be good, so that you can be in the right place at the right time. There is so much that is being presented to you. You see, your inner being knows where you stand in terms of your manifestations, and those manifestations in relationship to the manifestations that you want. Your inner being knows where you stand in relationship to all of that, and knows what your path of least resistance is to get there. And did you notice we said your path of least resistance? Because if you weren't putting resistance on your path, there would be no resistance, and you could ask and it would be given instantly. Not just given like it is, but given and received by you like it is. So the only hang up is you're asking, that's good. You can't stop it. And it's being given to you. That's happening. You can't stop that either. But you can block yourself from being in the receiving mode of recognizing that it is being given. And why you usually do that is because you're not satisfied. We love you so much. You're not satisfied with the early form in which it is given. You want the money in the bank. You don't just want a vibrational clue. You want your lover with you, living with you, enjoying life with you. You just don't want to be guided over here and over here and over here. But you've got to find a way of accepting that it is a process, and it's a process that's coming to you at the speed and at the clarity to which you have achieved the receiving mode. The only thing that's slowing it down is your unreadiness to be ready. And why are you unready to accept the vibrational reality? Because you're so, we love you so much, enamored with what you're seeing and hearing and smelling and tasting and touching. And we don't blame you. We think that's a good thing. But do you see the tightrope you're sort of walking here? You got to find a way to be satisfied with what is and eager for more. You got to find a way to be willing to let the gestation process of the seed in the ground happen. You've got to be willing to let what's ready for you become more and more ready, and you must hold yourself more frequently, more chronically, in an attitude of belief in your worthiness, in your ability, and in the universal laws of the universe to deliver to you anything and everything that you desire. The other day, Esther had such a wonderful experience. She was at home in Southern California, and she'd been meditating. We've been encouraging it every day, and she started doing it every day again, just for the satisfaction of really getting into the receiving mode, into that place where there's no resistance whatsoever. And as soon as she came back into her awareness after meditation, the thought that was in her mind was the fun of moving some furniture around in her house. She went right into the living room and looked, and she thought, that would look good if it was flipped the other way. You could put that over there, and that would make room over there for a desk that I want to put over there. And she was very excited about it. And so quickly, within a minute or two of that very fast first thought about that she'd had, she was online looking for 2 men in a truck. She called them and she said, I would like 2 men. I don't need the truck because we're not going to move anything anywhere. But if 2 men could come, with or without the truck's not important. I have some things that I would like to move around. And so they set it up for tomorrow. Esther was so excited. So she's looking around. What else could I move from place to place while they're here? Because I'm going to have 2 men and a truck. So she had a lot of fun with that through the day, and then got another thought. These thoughts seem to come out of nowhere. Where does a thought come from anyway? When you are the receiver of the thought, it doesn't matter so much where it comes from, because you can only control your reception. You can't control where it's broadcast from. But Esther receives another thought, and she's thinking, let's see, Jerry and I bought this house 10 years ago, and I know there's a music system in this house that will play everywhere, not just in the bedroom. So she sat down with an intention of figuring it out and pushed a sequence of buttons until suddenly she heard sound in another room. And then she remembered that there are knobs in many places in the house, and even out on the patios and in the courtyards. So she ran around and started turning knobs. It was so exciting. It's only been 10 years. Took her a while to get in the receptive mode about that. So then she's looking at this palette of music that is available to her through the cable system that's coming into her house. And she thought, I wonder what that is. I wonder what that is. I wonder what that is. So she listened for a few minutes in each genre of music, just so that she'd know which ones were her favorite. And in the process, she discovered rap. She pushed the buttons in all of the rooms, turned the knobs all up loud, and felt the exhilaration of this for a while. She was high on it. So were her neighbors. It was loud. And then she went on with other things. And then the next day, 2 men and a truck show up. And so she's showing them what to do, and they are enjoying the environment, and they're moving things around, and they're delightful, both of them. And one of them, Esther is talking about, have you ever seen a more beautiful day? And he says, yes, but I'm leaving. I'm going back to Alabama, where I come from. And Esther said, why? And he said, because I am a rapper. And Esther said, hold on just a minute. So she goes into her machine and pushes the buttons, and rap is happening all around. His eyes are so big he can't believe, he thinks he's in an alternate reality. Nothing about this moment seems right to him. And then he says to Esther, "What do you do?" And Esther said, "I'm a teacher." And he said, "Well, what do you teach?" And Esther said, "I teach rap." And then she said, "No, that's it." But now they are in love with each other. And then he says, "Really, what do you do?" And Esther said, "Oh, it's sort of a long story, but I have some books." So she took a couple of books from the shelf and signed them and gave them to him, and off he went. And as he went out the gate, he turned with such intensity and he said, "Esther, which one should I read first?" And Esther knew for sure he's going to read those books and she is going to hear him rapping. There is no question in her mind that someone with this heart and this desire and this passion and this readiness and this willingness and this wantingness, and now this understanding at his young age, he's got everything that he will ever need to do or be or have anything that he ever wants. And right now, what it is rap. And so the reason we tell you the story is for a number of reasons. First and most important is that Esther didn't wake up intending to be a teacher that day. She woke up just wanting some furniture moved around, because her inner being knew that that was the path of least resistance, and his inner being knew that that was the path of least resistance, to put these two people together, with one with a question and one with an answer. Do you see how it works? The giving and the receiving is always that way. You are the givers and the receivers to and from each other all the time. And when you are in the receiving mode, then you get ideas that not only benefit you, it's always win-win. It benefits you and it benefits another every single time that you are in the receiving mode. Sometimes you're in the receiving mode and others aren't. Sometimes they're in the receiving mode and you're not. Not such good connections. But when you are and they are and you come together, then wonderful things happen. Wonderful communications happen. Wonderful path of least resistances happen. Wonderful timing happens. Wonderful answers to wonderful questions. When you are in the receiving mode, you are also in the giving mode. When you're tuned in and tapped in and turned on to this non-physical energy, then how is it that so often non-physical energy can express? You ever had a bird just show up and get your attention, and as you looked at it, you knew? At the same time you're seeing the bird, you know what that's about. You even might know who it is that's bringing you a message. And while the bird is going cheep, 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 tweet, 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 you're not hearing the sound of the bird. You're feeling the vibration of the bird. And so often it calls your attention to someone often dearly departed, and then often you lose your track because you focus upon who it might be that is bringing you the message, and then you miss them because they're not here. So you've tuned in accidentally, and then you tune out because you're misunderstanding that you just had a rendezvous with something that is bringing you information that if you could remain in the receiving mode, you would know, you see. And so the things that we want you to gather from this conversation that we're having today together is we want you to leave knowing unequivocally that anything that this time and space can inspire within you, it can yield to you. If you can want it, you can have it. But you've got to understand that law of attraction is the basis of the combining, and you've got to understand what it is that you are in this moment in time in the reception mode of. Because sometimes, without meaning to be, you are in the receiving mode of the absence of what you want instead of the receiving mode for the presence of what you want. So, the story goes on a little further. So you ask, source answers, and this vortex is there, this vibrational reality is the answer. It is also the now reality. This is where all the action is. This is where all of the attention is. This is what source energy is focused upon. So source energy is focused upon who you really are, not only what you've allowed yourself to be so far. So your up to the minute updates of what you want are always in your vortex, and that's what your inner being is always focused upon.